hate this stage of edge regrowing because I look real dumb and I still look bald headed. And I don't appreciate it, and it's making me feel some type of way. But hello, hi, it's Kendall here. If you're new around here, welcome. Not new around here, what is up, home skillet biscuit? And hopefully this video is going up on Saturday, because if you may have noticed, I have been off schedule a lot recently, and that's because despite having editors, I am still behind somehow. One thing about staying on schedule, I am not gonna do it. So I've decided that this week we'll do something gross. What the fuck? Gorilla Snot is so aptly named, but I hate the way that this looks. But I figured that this week we can keep things pretty chill so that theoretically we can go back to uploading on Saturday. Because today we're talking about things that I've been enjoying. It's a video that theoretically I won't have to write anything down really. And most importantly, you guys can figure out some of the cool things that I've been enjoying recently because I have a lot to talk about. We have things in like TV shows, documentaries, a few games, as well as one recipe that I'm gonna bestow upon y'all. It is one of legend that I had not cooked in many, many years because people would follow me around my high school like crackheads and I didn't want to deal with that anymore. But recently I had a taste for them and thus the problem has presented itself again. We'll get to that later. Hello everyone, this is Admiral Kennie and today's video is sponsored by Incog. There are a few things I hate in this world more than spam calls, spam emails, spam traditional mail. Somehow, somewhere, some company found my information and is like, can I bombard you with things that you don't care about? Do you want to talk to a stranger about your car's warranty? No. How did y'all get my information? And that is where Incog comes in. Incog goes in on your behalf and requests that data brokers that buy your information in order to target you for advertisements, spam, they contact them and request takedowns on your behalf automatically, thus protecting your privacy, vastly lowering your interactions with spam. If you were to send these requests manually, it could easily take you years. And there's no guarantee that the data wouldn't be collected again and reused again, but Incog sends the requests and keeps you abreast of which ones have been taken down. And they continually do it even if data brokers put it back up. I've been a customer of Incog for a little while now before they were a sponsor. It has vastly lowered the amount of like spam calls I get, spam emails I get. And personally, I do get a kick out of the like monthly recap that tells you how many successful data takedowns they've done. For instance, in May of this year, they sent over 200 requests on my behalf, and pretty much that many as well were taken down and completed in that time. And that is nearly 145 hours I've saved to my life that I'm not spending requesting data takedowns, okay? So if you would like to check out Incog, feel free to click on my link down below and get 60% off when you use code Kennie. That's code Kennie for 60% off at incogni.com/Kennie. Big thanks again to Incog for sponsoring today's video. Now let's get on to the debauchery. But first off, I want to talk about the thing that's on my mind first right now because I just finished the new episodes of Bridgerton this season 3. As of filming this, the second half of the season isn't out yet, but I am excited. I'm loving Penelope. She's everything. She's so adorable. Colin is kind of but Colin is whatever. I don't feel one way or another about Colin. But I do love Penelope, and I do love a good like friends to lovers / man doesn't realize what he's got until he's gone ass show. And it seems as though this season is rearing up to be that. I've never done a video on the Bridgertons simply because I don't know why. I have a bit of a history with the Bridgertons because I actually have read all of most of the books, if not all of the books, all of the main books, like each of the siblings and everything. But it's also been a very long time since I read them, and the show doesn't like directly follow that. There is some like general plot points that are the same. They actually end up, if I remember correctly, mixing some of the books because each book is focused on each sibling in the Bridgerton family. But I love Penelope. She's so cute. I'm really excited to see a chubby girl fucking like nude, okay? Because y'all don't let people with titties, y'all don't let people with voluptuous full bodies be nude on camera. Everybody has to have an A cup and be like tastefully nude, whatever the fuck that means. And in this way that though nude is still in a weird way desexualized, and I think particularly women who are short and kind of chubby tend to suffer that, particularly because they're kind of infantilized, but also desexualized because they're chubby. It's very interesting. But I say all that to say, I just finished the last, what is that, episode 4, and I was literally standing here screaming, not to spoil anything, but screaming at the carriage scene, like, yes! Get the f*** on! Yeah! I'm a fan of that. I'm a fan of that and what it represents. I will say that, again, I don't find Colin to be that great, but, you know, I'm curious to see where the rest of the season takes us. So that is the first thing I'm going to talk about because that was on my mind first. I also recently finished, like in the last week or so, the Ashley Madison documentary. Baby. It's on Netflix. For those of you that don't know what Ashley Madison is. Ashley Madison is a website that is devoted to people, particularly men, who are married but are looking to have an affair. And back in like, I want to say 2015 or so, they had this massive data breach where they were hacked and the hackers released all the information about who had made accounts on there looking to cheat, particularly on their wives. Sure, there were some women that joined the site, but by and large, it was mostly men. And when that data breach came out, there was some of everybody on that shit. There were celebrities on it. There were people in religious standing, like pastors, preachers, people who touted themselves as, you know, moral pillars in their communities. You know, you could find your neighbor on there. You could find classmates on there. If, you know, if you're in college, you might be able to find any and everybody on that bitch. And it was a big deal. And they kind of go into the early creation of that website and some of the scandals that went along with its creation. As you can imagine, that type of service would piss a lot of people off. I remember like advertisements for Ashley Madison, but I've noticed that when I talk to people about it outside of this documentary, like people didn't know what it was, but I did because I used to watch wrestling and they would advertise that shit all the time on Spike TV because they was trying to get horny men who watch, you know, Raw to cheat on their wives. I think what's really fascinating, and this might be a bit of a spoiler, so if you don't want to hear this component of it, maybe you'll just skip ahead. But the thing that was so egregious to me about the Ashley Madison documentary is that the service presented itself being this like hyper secure, you know, that is what the business is based off of: security, privacy, not anonymity, because people were putting all this information like they were getting a bank loan on there. But they prided themselves on being really secure so that you can have your affair and know that, you know, none of your information will get out. See how well that worked. You'll be able to meet a new woman, have an affair, and be able to keep the comfort of the life that you built with your family and your wife or whatever. But the thing that was so fascinating to me is that your entire business model is based off of you keeping that level of privacy. And not only did they not keep that level of privacy, we find out in the documentary they basically had none. They had no privacy. They photoshopped a bunch of like medals in regards to like most secure website or whatever the fuck. They fucking lied. That's fraud, outright fraud. They had a system which kind of pissed about because it's actually pretty early in this type of, admittedly kind of innovative in regards to like chatting and microtransactions and stuff like that. But you had to pay to get on the site and then you had to pay for coins to message girls, right? And so there was like this kind of addictive, almost slot machine-esque like casino gambling aspect where it's like buy more coins and you send messages back and forth and you can spend those coins very quickly. You add more money just trying to get to know some woman and you are racking up debts, baby, to try to cheat on your wife. So that's terrible. That's incredibly predatory. People are taking out like different credit cards and shit to talk to some girl to cheat on his wife. And then on top of that, come to find out, which doesn't really surprise me now as someone who understands how bots work in 2024, but this was like 2012 or something. They weren't even talking to women. They were talking to AI, like early AI. So not even good AI, but people didn't even know about it. So they were talking to robots who would message them first so that men would spend more money thinking they're talking to a woman, and come to find out that's not even a person there. They're just spending more money to talk to a woman. One time, this one lady was talking about how she had made an account. She was a sex worker, but she had never really messaged anybody on there, and her essentially dead account was being used to talk to men, and then men were thinking they were actually talking to her, and they would come up to her job thinking that they're gonna go on a date with her, and she's like, I've never talked to you a day in my life. It was so much fucking going on. People's lives were wrecked, and I do have... How do I put this? I don't believe that Ashley Madison makes men cheat. If anything, it's just like a modality to do a thing they were gonna do anyway. But the kind of fascinating, like swarmy language that Ashley Madison would use to kind of say, we're just servicing a need, we're just helping the community, and we're just doing what, somebody's gotta do it. Who are we to not allow somebody to do it? And that's just very, very funny to me in a very dark way. Because when all the names came out, rest assured, Nick was dropping like flies. And that's so darkly ironic that they were talking to this one lady whose husband was the head of like a seminary, if I remember correctly. And they found out that he was on Ashley Madison. They made him resign, and then he killed himself. And imagine your husband tried to cheat on you, himself, only to find out that he was talking to a bot. Oh my God. It's fucked up. It's really fucked up, and good documentary though. And then they talked to this one couple who is like a family vlogger. I don't like family vloggers. They're fucking dumb, especially when they're like, we're just trying to teach everybody how to be a happy Christian family. Like, I don't trust that shit. But the husband ended up on there, and they were trying to tell their particular story. Good for them. So there's that. Sorry, I rambled a lot about that one because I had a lot of thoughts about that one, but I highly recommend it, even though I probably spoiled it for you entirely. Okay, next up, who the did I marry? Who the bleep did I marry? Not to be confused with Who the Did I Marry, the TikTok story, but a show that I ended up seeing when I was in a hotel, and it was just randomly on, and I thought, did they make a show out of Who the Did I Marry, the story on TikTok? No. It's a show from like the early, maybe the 2010s or something like that, where people go on and tell the stories of them finding out that the person that they married was a serial killer or was an embezzler. One I watched, this lady was like, I knew that my husband was dangerous. Come to find out he was a serial killer. I was like, pardon? What do you mean? That one has a lot of episodes, so I highly recommend like peeping your head in, because that one's, I don't really have a lot to say because each episode is its own kind of thing. If I remember correctly, that one's on HBO Max if you want to watch it, and it's peak. Get terrified about the person you're sleeping next to. This next cluster of things were recommended to me by one of my friends, Chibi, as well as my boyfriend, because Chibi has been wanting me to watch Dropout TV for a hot little minute. And then my boyfriend's into Dungeons and Dragons, so he was trying to introduce me to some stuff that's on that side of YouTube, which I did not know existed until I did not know this existed. I'm learning so much, okay? He was like, yeah, there's a whole community of people who play Dungeons and Dragons on YouTube, professionally. And I know plenty of people who play it, but I never ventured. And I didn't really understand how deep it gets for some people. But he was saying, I want to introduce a show to you called Vox Machina, Critical Role's Vox Machina. That's on Amazon Prime. And that is an animated retelling of a campaign, like a Dungeons and Dragons game that was done by a group on YouTube called Critical Role. Side note, if I get any information wrong, please don't kill me, Dungeons and Dragons people, okay? I'm new, all right? I don't know everything. But I watched the first season with him, and I was obsessed, and now I'm a few episodes into season 2. It's basically, it's hard to explain it. It's it's Dungeons and Dragons, but animated. It's how the story progressed in their game, but they animate it to be watched as a show in 8 episodes, give or take. I think the art is very cool. It's very funny. I did not expect that. I don't know what I expected, but I did not expect comedy. I expected something that was a lot more solemn and serious. But I think the comedy makes it a bit more approachable if it's new to you, like the whole world of like Dungeons and Dragons, and it's still very new to me. So I certainly can't speak as any authority, but I've really enjoyed it and I've really liked it. And when I told Chibi that I'm like venturing into it, she said, okay, I'm gonna need you to start with Dungeons and Drag Queens. I know you, Kendall. You love a little head pride. You love yourself something a little, so like it combines something new and something you already are like somewhat familiar with. And can I just say, Dungeons and Drag Queens is a show on Dropout TV, or I should say, it's a season of Dimension 20 that is on Dropout TV, where they bring on 4 drag queens to play Dungeons and Dragons, and presumably it's their first time along the way. And they bring in Monet Exchange, Alaska Thunderfuck, Jujubee, and Bob the Drag Queen. And they play Dungeons and Dragons. And that is the first time that I was like, oh, I think I'm starting to get the appeal here. This is everything. This is really funny. I do think a game like Dungeons and Dragons is very much so dependent on the people you play with. That's the vibe I'm getting. So for those of you that play it, please put it down in the comment section. I'm actually quite curious. Like, have you found that specifically who you play with can really change the vibe? And I personally like the kind of like comedic breaks that come along with people that don't really know how to play. Again, I'm new to it, and they're drag queens. The first episode is on YouTube and it's like 2.5 hours. They're also quite long too. So it's a great like something to put on to like get really wrapped into / while you're like cleaning up your apartment and stuff. And the first episode is on YouTube and then the other ones are on their app, and the rest of the season is so funny. Oh my God. It's so funny. It definitely made me more interested in playing myself. I still have a little imposter syndrome. I'm like, oh my God, I don't want people to see me role playing because what if I'm bad at it? But then I also feel like if I did it, I'd be so I need to figure out where that like middle ground for me is right now. But yeah. Also another show that the BF showed me is Arcane. I'm really late to Arcane. Arcane is a show that is a animation created around the lore of League of Legends. Admittedly, I've never had any interest in playing the game League of Legends. I know a lot of people that play it. I don't know, something about a game that's largely contingent on playing with other people, for the most part, isn't my thing. But I did like the idea of a show that helps me like lean into the lore without necessarily having to play online. There's also something just a bit intimidating about it. I'm not gonna lie, the game, I don't know why, but without spoiling too much, because I think it's a great watch. It actually came out a few years ago, so I'm definitely late. I don't know if I'm spoiling it if the show is 3 years late already, but I have never hated a child as much as I hated one particular child. And I'm gonna let you watch it and guess in the comment section. I'm not gonna say nothing. Because people was like, don't be too much on so-and-so. I ain't even say no names. I was on Twitter. I was like, I've never hated a baby so much in my life. Somebody needs to punt this kid. It's pissing me off. And everybody's like, not too much on so-and-so. Not too much on so. I was like, who said anybody's name? That's because y'all know that this person sucks. All right. But I felt such visceral frustration and anger towards a baby that made me like sit down and say, what the fuck? Why did y'all make the most unlikable child I've ever seen in my life? But it's a story that follows kind of the apartheid, essentially, between an upper and lower society, and how there is a takeover in that lower part, and our main characters are like trying to survive in that. And then on the upper echelon, they are trying to make sense of technology and where that fits in with duty and where that fits in with the power that they have both within their city and then in relation to the lower city. There's a lot of politics. There's a lot of emotion in that. I'm trying to stay pretty vague, if it inclines you to watch it, because I do think it's very good. And the new season is coming out in November, so I'm trying to be prepared for that as well. Also, the new season of Vox Machina is also coming out in a Was it November? I don't remember. It's coming out this year though. So I gotta finish season 2 of that, and then season 3 comes out, and then season 2 of Arcane is coming out too. Also, I just wanna go on about, I could wax on and on about how much I love the art of Arcane in particular. There is something so like tickling to my art kid brain, like high school art kid brain, because there's a lot of this like interesting mixture of different art styles, I guess I'm seeing, like how they go about animation. It's very fascinating to me. There's, you know, a pretty obvious amount of digital painting and digital work, but there's also these moments that feel a bit 2D, if that makes sense, or the cartoonish over the semi-realistic. I do think particularly Arcane is like reigniting a love that I've had for animation that I have not really found the time to really venture into because I am too busy watching garbage. That's not to complain. I love garbage, but it does take up a lot of time. So, but I do really want to venture more into this kind of like animation renaissance that seems to be happening over the last few years. And also finding the time to really sink in and enjoy anime more. If there's any anime that you think I should watch, this is a little bit different, I guess, genre, but if there's any animation that you think I should watch, put that down in the comment section. I'm not a huge shonen girly, and people tend to recommend a lot of shonen to me these days, and I'm like, do I look like a bitch that cares about shonen? Because I don't. But yeah, send that my way. I think it would be really helpful and cool. Since I'm giving recommendations, maybe you give recommendations back, baby. Okay, quick pivot. Let's talk about a thing I've been cooking a lot. This is really random. Okay. Back when I was in high school, I stole a recipe from a bigoted white woman from Food Network that got fired for saying the word. And this recipe I colonized and would make for the occasional choir bake sale when I was in high school. And they were a big hit amongst those who tried them, but it was quite frustrating to go through an 8-hour day of school when people were walking around the corners and scratching and shit because they like, hey, you got any more of them cookies? All right. But recently I had a hankering for them just out of the blue. And now I've been making cookies, so many cookies that I've played around with the recipe just a little bit so I can call them my cookies because again, colonization, appropriation, that's how you do it. And that is my crack cookies. Crack because they're crackly on the top. Crack because they're glittery on the top. Crack because people be scratching for some cookies. They are a butter and cream cheese based cookie. I've played around with the recipe a little bit to add chocolate chips, and I want to play around with it more because I'm kind of curious how they would taste with like a caramel component. I don't know how I would do it. I bought some caramel squares and I want to put them in the cookies. Nope, too much chocolate. Oh God. Oh. But the basic recipe is super easy, by the way. It is a stick of butter, softened, 8-ounce thing of cream cheese softened, 1 egg, vanilla extract, or I use vanilla bean paste. I add a little bit of salt, and then I add 1 box of Devil's Food moist cake mix. You stir that all together. It's very thick and dense and kind of difficult to do. It's almost paste-like, but you'll be like, is this too thick? It's perfect. It's fine. Then I add like half a bag of either semi-sweet chocolate chips. I've also tried it with milk chocolate recently, and that's good too. It's like creamier. Duh. And then you put those in you put the dough in the refrigerator for an hour or 2. A lot of times I forget, do it overnight. Take them out, roll it into balls, roll those balls into granulated sugar, hence the crackly on the outside. Bake them for 10 minutes at 350 in the oven. And when you take them out, they're gonna look structurally unsound. Fret not. They're gonna look like they have no bones. They are boneless cookies. It is okay. Once they sit there for a little bit, they'll like congeal back together, and they are the most marvelous texture of like that crackly crispy on top. And then the inside is like almost like chocolate cheesecakey, and I don't even like cheesecake. So it's like, ooh, this is fire. I want to figure out how to make it where we combine a little bit of like a salted caramel component. You know, I think that would be fire, but I'm still playing around with that. So this is like the basic recipe. So if you try it, don't bring up racist woman who bring it up as if it was completely my idea. The granulated sugar is my idea. The chocolate chips are my idea. The salt are my idea. And last but not least is a game. Another recommendation from the boyfriend, which is Chance of Sinar. I love this game, and I want everybody to play it if you haven't played it already. It's a game in which you are a random person that is plopped into a society that you don't know the language at all. All you know is like context clues and like using hieroglyphics, I know words, to use context clues to figure out what words mean. And it really works the old brain there, especially as a person who's done language studies. I'm like, oh man, you're making me pull shit out of my ass that I haven't done in a very long time. But along the way, you are ascending a tower, learning about the relationship between each level of the tower to each other and their kind of histories related to each other, and all to culminate into this beautiful ending if you do the secret ending in particular. It's very challenging. It pissed me off, but it's a lot of fun. Beautiful to play. Very interesting concept. It's very like low. There's not large bouts of instruction. It really is depending on you to use something very intrinsic to language learning to unveil this story. And I've now played it twice, and it wasn't necessarily easier the second time. Even though I already knew the answers to everything theoretically, it was still like this like, man, I'm scratching parts of my brain I haven't scratched in a hot minute. And I liked it. It was a lot of fun. And also the culmination is quite beautiful and quite satisfying. Everything culminated into something that was like really beautiful. Again, trying to be vague, but I absolutely loved it. Each level was so beautiful. That like third or fourth level, I'm trying to think, was tough. Anyway, so yes, I really love that. If you want to check it out, I play it on PlayStation 5, but I'm sure it's available in a bunch of other places. So feel free to check that out. So that is all for this week. Sorry it's a short one. Sorry it's kind of more laid back, but your bitch is going on vacation. It's June. Be outside. Turn up. Do a little something. I'm probably still gonna upload next week. I have no reason to believe I wouldn't. But yeah, I will see you guys after the vacation. Let you know if I come back in a week or two and I'm like really toasty and really like bronze. Thank you for noticing and complimenting me on it. I much appreciate it. But anyway, if you like this video, feel free to like this video. Follow me on all my social media, Instagram and Twitter, both of which are KennieJD. If you have anything in relation to what I've talked about today, anything you recommend me check out, put those down in the comment sections, baby. Also, if you've tried any of the things I've talked about, watched any of the things I talk about, put your thoughts on that, especially that Ashley Madison. I have a lot of thoughts on that. Fuck that. Fuck all y'all, because they was in that bitch trying to say, like, it was very like, don't fuck with cats when they're like, it's your fault that we even have this documentary that you're watching right now. Bitch, I didn't even know who he was until you made the documentary, bitch. God. So they're over here like, it's everybody else's fault that the people that were trying to cheat on their spouses felt bad about it. Because we went looking to figure out who cheated on their spouse, as opposed to not cheating on your spouse / not creating a website to make it easier to cheat on your spouse. But somehow it's our fault. Whatever. Anyway, it's just so self-righteous. Shut up. I'm sorry. That's not fair. Her husband stuff. She's going through a lot. I'm sorry. Anyway, I'll see you guys next time. Bye.